Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto had a dark Otsutsuki Kekkei Genkai, and was Hamura's descendant. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. What if a raindrop carried a disease capable of bringing down the entire population of the village? What if multiple raindrops carried a multitude of diseases? What would happen if the skies weren't clear? The contemplating young man looked up at the sky and panicked. Why did we have to live in the cloud village? Karui, very much used to the sudden and peculiar outbursts of her teammate, simply walked on. Sensei, we are all going to die. As if it was his time to shine, the boy's sensei started thrusting his arms left and right. Yeah. Probably most likely, we all die eventually. Don't be torn, we might be reborn. Che, hopefully the idiot won't. Karui half-yelled out as a response. We all know we don't need another Omoi in the next generation. The one leading the small group of people wasn't the sensei. Assuming there will be a next generation. Ever the doomsday thinker, Samly lead the way back into the village. Team B had just finished an A-rank mission. Oh, right. You rookies ready to keep the visitors steady? We're all Chunin, boss. Can hardly consider us rookies anymore. Omoi grabbed another lollipop as the gates to Kyuubi opened for them. As if a bunch of genin can make things hard for us. Besides, this exam is smaller than most. It was true. Chunin exams are normally held twice a year, but there's also a biennial Chunin exams, which participants are very limited. Only the great villages were allowed to participate with a maximum of 3 genin. This exam was not team-oriented either. It goes without saying that the genin sent would be very promising. Uegakure chose Kuratsuchi, Shiritsuchi, and Akatsuchi. Kirigakure elected Chojuro, Suiren, and Enmu. Konoha sent Uchiha Sasuke, Aburame Shino, and Hyuga Niji. Sunagakure picked out Suigetsu, Girin, and Jugo. And Kumigakure went with Atsui, Netsu, and Tiu. Wonder if your hothead of a brother can keep his cool. Samly ignored Omoi in favor of showing the patrol their papers. I am curious about the contestants. These biennial exams are always very entertaining. Karui pondered. And unforgiving. The way I like it. Samly nodded after the guards gave their papers back. They were such fools sending out precious shinobi to a country that is well outside of their control. While he had a whole country at his disposal, Sand Village was quite dull and frankly, business was far from lucrative. He knew things weren't divided evenly and fairly, but even he couldn't have known it was this bad. Less than half. That was the income Sunagakure garnered from missions. Pathetic. He expected double the pay he received from Otogakure, but the two were despicably close. It really was no wonder Raza, the Kazekage he killed and was now impersonating, wanted an alliance with him to bring down Konohagakure. Somehow, he hoped the alliance with Kumigakure would help matters. He couldn't kill the Raikage and impersonate him, because too much was known about him. Raza was quite easy, the only thing known about the secretive Kazekage was that he used gold dust. Perhaps, Orochimaru mused, it was time to transfer his soul to a new body. Fushire Tensei, his living corpse reincarnation Tekuhik, was his pride, his way of immortality. It transferred his soul to a new, younger and fresher body. The body he was in now was already rotting, but would still survive for a year. Jumping to a new one now might be too soon. Uchiha Sasuke was in Kumigakure now. While Konoha was certainly off limits, Kumigakure wasn't so immune to his information gatherers. Konoha had sent Uchiha Sasuke, Hyuga Niji and Aburame Shino as participants for the biennial Chunin exams. Hadake Kakashi was their temporary instructor, while another Jonin finished the Konoha team. The extra Jonin's name simply stated Hyo, a name Orochimaru was not familiar with. Akatsuki had fallen apart, with members missing left and right. He didn't know who the real mastermind behind the mercenary group was, but he was sure they weren't weaklings to be able to deal with people like Pain, Itachi, Sasori and Kakuzu. Orochimaru's expression turned from contemplative to confusing. The snake-like man was sitting in the office shielded from the desert winds raging through Sunagakure. Didn't Itachi mention Kakuzu was killed by the Kyuubi kid? He whispered to himself. He was intrigued. Itachi never gave any further specific details about it. Did a Konoha squad fight that old thread bastard and the Jinchuriki simply got a lucky finishing shot in? He was curious about it. He had come across the Uzumaki kid, as he was part of Sasuke-kun's team, during Konoha's Chunin exams but got interrupted by the traitors. Konoha was full of question marks. You've definitely overstepped, Shimura Danzo. Orochimaru wasn't pleased at all about his previous subordinates. And you will pay dearly for it, somehow. Orochimaru, disguised as Suna Jonin, was going to depart for Kumigakure alongside Suigetsu, Jugo, and Guren in the morning. He had several options to play out in Kumigakure, but the snake wasn't sure yet if all options were wise. They're not even trying to hide. A blonde woman was casually walking through a forest leading to tea country. She was wearing a green kimono with a white vest underneath, her outfit finished with blue pants and black sandals. She was accompanied by a black-haired young woman, her hair reaching just above the collarbone. Sure, they have large amounts of chakra, individually. Which meant they were not be taken lightly. The formation is not one I recognize. I can't tell from which country they're from. It's almost a combination of formations. Somewhat Konoha and Kiri-like. Kato Shizune was a very talented sensor nin, apprenticed to Senju Tsunade. I don't like waiting. The legendary female, Sonin, flared her chakra in warning. In response, a masked team landed in front of her and Shizune. A small pig in Shizune's arms squealed in fear. Lady Tsunade. The leader of the squad before them bowed shortly. We come bearing news from Konoha. Konoha? You're no Anbu, no root either. The leader nodded his head and procured a scroll from one of his pockets. Tsunade didn't seem afraid in the slightest and the movement the leader made didn't seem threatening. We are listed as Anbu in Konoha, however. We serve the Uzumaki clan. He took a step forward, approaching Tsunade, and offered her the scroll. Details will be within the scroll, but I am here to answer any questions. Our most important objective is for you to return to Konoha. The Uzumaki clan? Shizune was confused. Wasn't the Jinchuriki the only one left? Tsunade followed up. You are a protection squad for Uzumaki Naruto? Yes and no. We serve Uzumaki Naruto, but not just him. We are also part of the Uzumaki clan. But you're no Uzumaki. Here is when a few of the members removed their masks, as if it was instructed. A young man with 6 arms bowed shortly. I am Uzumaki Kadamaru. His hairstyle was quite Nara-like and it was unquestionably red. No genjutsu. This man was a former sound gate serving under Orochimaru. A somewhat chubby shinobi followed. My name is Uzumaki Jirubo. His mohawk was also red. The third and final red-haired member introduced himself as well. Uzumaki Kabuto, nice to make your acquaintance. His red hair was held in a ponytail. Karatachi Yagura and Momochi Zabuza remained masked, although Naruto had also changed their entire body alongside their revival to an Uzumaki's. At the moment, it would bring too many questions. They were now also known as Uzumaki Yagura and Uzumaki Zabuza. Interesting. Tsunade honestly didn't know how to respond to this. Being a Senju, you are closely related to our clan. Uzumaki Naruto wants the clan to thrive once again. Someone like you close to us could make a world of difference. Yagura was the one speaking, still from behind his mask. You speak as if the brat is clan head. The legendary gambler was quick to pick up on things. He is. The captain confirmed easily. He is currently undergoing a mission of the highest importance alongside Jiraiya-sama, which is why we were sent to inform you of the recent developments in Konoha. Jiraiya is? Surprising. Tsunade took in the new information with a hand to her chin. I am not adverse to this. Tell the brat to approach me himself. I want to see how he grew up. For now, that will be all. She said, finality clear in her voice. Understood, Senju-sama. As no more words were needed, the squad departed swiftly by Shunshin. The Uzumaki clan revived. Shizune was amazed. That will surely make an impact. Indeed. Kumigakure and Uegakure will not be pleased. Ha! You seem agitated. Even more than I usually am. Indeed. My bugs sense apparent hostility. Perhaps it's best you refrain from any unnecessary handlings. Hyuga Niji sighed tiredly, glaring at his two temporary teammates. Uchiha Sasuke and Aburame Shino. This country is responsible for the majority of my pain. Its previous leader wasn't the subtlest, most definitely. Perhaps it's different with a new leader. Came a more mature voice from behind them. Hatake Kakashi, stance more confident than ever, walked past them to observe the many mountains around them. Don't underestimate Kimonin. They are known for their speed. The copycat sighed as he fished out a scroll from a pocket on the left side of his Jonin vest. This counts as an A-ranked mission. Completing it without fault will result in a field promotion to Chunin. Kakashi grabbed a random Ika from his pocket after putting the scroll away. After this exam, we'll be meeting up with Jiraiya-sama. Mission S-ranked, to be sure. Jiraiya-sama? This in turn would mean Naruto is involved somehow. Niji beat Sasuke to it with this question. You assume correctly. The gray-haired Jonin nodded. It would seem Naruto has decided to go on the offensive. The addict surprised me. A 35-year-old red-haired Danzo let out. Konoha might just become glorious, after all. Naruto wants Soran to stay put. Yagura was quite sour about it. Ah, yes. I assume you want to move out to Kirigakure. You'll have to wait until Naruto decides on which Uchiha he wants to absorb. Obito has a cursed seal created by Madara himself on his heart. Absorbing him might prove too troublesome. I would say to just absorb Uchiha Sasuke and revive the boy again. But Naruto wants to face off against Itachi first, right? To fully understand the Sharingan's evolution. Danzo confirmed Yagura's words with a nod. Obito's Sharingan is also a bit of a question mark. Implanting it in Kakashi immediately was a mistake that horribly backfired with a backlash of severe chakra exhaustion. We should be keeping Obito's Sharingan eye safe until Naruto can successfully create a body with pure Uchiha blood running through it. Danzo allowed a smile on his own face. Even I am just temporary. I have no Sharingan at the moment. All of my Sharingan are being kept safe. Security and certainty. Good tools to walk a road with. Yagura agreed. Soran will move alongside Konoha for the talks in Kirigakure. There has also been talk about a new Hokage. Hiruzen wants to step down. There was a glint in Danzo's eye. It would be a shame if that monkey died of old age, though. Choices can become myths. Yagura cryptically pondered. It's been many decades for me. How is it you know the way, Jiraiya-kun? Surprisingly, it's been decades for me, too, and Misama. Albeit probably a lot less. When we fought Hanzo of the Salamander during the Second Shinobi World War, Gamabunta refused to fight Abuse, Hanzo's salamander summon boss. So months after the war and everything had somewhat been resolved, I asked the toads about the salamanders. Enma already knew what Jiraiya was going to say. It turns out the salamanders are very closely related to the toads. They have an ironclad alliance and won't fight one another ever. The poison toads actually answer to the salamanders. So, we are here to find out if we can somehow link through to Abuse and the salamanders. I am pretty sure they won't be ready for another great ape summoner. Enma couldn't resist but be in slight awe of the young boy Uzumaki Naruto. currently draped over Jiraiya's right shoulder. The blonde boy was severely exhausted after the trials of the Lave Apes. The previous great ape summoner was Senju Tobarama, and even he couldn't summon the lava apes. Amigakure, Rain Country. A horrible existence. The thought of having hit rock bottom, but falling through said bottom. That's where he was at right now. He had eyes, Rinnegan eyes, the eyes that could see and comprehend everything. But they weren't his to use. He had mobility. The thought an impossibility after Hanzo had destroyed his legs. He could move, walk, run, leap and swim again. But alas, his legs weren't his to operate. He was but a presence in his own body. A body completely controlled by Otsutsuki Yakusu and Otsutsuki Zetsu. The Rinnegan eyes were Yakusu's and Zetsu's. Not his, not Madara's. What Nagato didn't know was that these particular pair of Rinnegan eyes weren't originally Yakusu's and Zetsu's either. The bottom part of both his legs and his feet were actually Mokuton-enhanced limb amputations. Yakusu and Zetsu had broken what little of what was left of his willpower. Did you know? Yakusu had said. It wasn't Konoha, you know. I mean, not directly. Sure, Konoha did kill your parents, but it was us who orchestrated the entire war. You were a vital piece for our plan. Only those with Senju or Uchiha blood are able to carry the Rinnegan. Older humans are not as easy to keep track of, and you were born in Amigakure to Uzumaki refugees. The Uzumaki line lies very close to the Senju line. You were the perfect choice to safeguard our Rinnegan. If the topic wasn't so sensitive, Nagato might have wondered why Zetsu wasn't talking. Your parents' death was important for strengthening the Dojutsu we implanted in you. We had to make it happen. If Nagato could scream, thrash or lash out in any way, he would. But he was bound completely inside his own body. And Yakusu reveled in it. The air shifted very subtly, as if nothing had changed in the small room. He would call it a cage, though. Oi, someone's here. Yeah, I felt it, too. It's not one of ours, this one smells different. Smells like birds, but the scent carries death. I would say vultures, but I know how those smell. 2 individuals were chained up, blindfolded and taped off with many seal papers around their bodies. One had long red hair, a mustache and was quite small, about 5 foot sweat could be seen on his neck and face, the rest was tapered off with seals. The man was about 34 years old. The other had short, spiky red hair and was a bear of a man, the bystander guessed he was about 4 foot ft tall. He seemed to be of the same age as the former. Multiple-layered Gogyu Fuuin. They heard a voice whisper. Rashi and Han. You were very hard to find. Allow me to free you of these binds. They didn't hear anything after that, but could surely feel their bindings coming undone. I'd advise to remain hidden and silent for a while longer after I leave. Uegakure is in state of chaos at the moment, the fence-sitter is in a situation. I need the 2 of you on the outside. Despite being Jinchuriki, you'll find your bodies quite unaccustomed. You've been trapped down here for more than 3 years. Ran and Hoshi found that they could see again as their blindfolds were removed. 3 years in darkness didn't give way to vision easily. All they could see was the cursed Dojutsu. The Sharingan. To think. Uehoki took the 2 of you when you were barely born. You 2 are remnants of the Uzushio massacre. You 2 are Uzumaki Jinchuriki. Interesting. In an hour, you will find yourself able to leave this place quietly. Until then, I suggest not moving an inch. I can already sense the bijou within you refilling your chakra pools. Don't do anything unnecessary for an hour. Normally it would take hours for their vision to return after being in the dark for so long, but these 2 were hardened Jinchuriki. They managed to glimpse the Uchiha fade away. Fucking crows, of course. About a week and a half had passed since the biennial Chunin exams had started off in Kumigakure. The participants had gone through a variety of exams testing teamwork, intelligence, loyalty and dependency. The final test was an individual one, where they had to fight without their biggest tool. Their own instructor chose for them what was forbidden to use. Kakashi wasn't playing nice. This meant that Uchiha Sasuke was not allowed to use his Sharingan, Hyuga Neji wasn't allowed to use his Byakugan and Aburame Shino wasn't allowed to use his bugs. All the other participants had handicaps just as game-changing. It made for interesting fights, and unsurprisingly, a lot less lethal. Orochimaru, still disguised as a Suna Jonin, wasn't interested at all in a fight with limitations. He wanted to see Sasuke go all out with his Sharingan. Orochimaru's future. Dojutsu at work. Within his impeccable disguise, he managed to fight off a flinch as he saw Jiraiya suddenly appear by Shunshin next to Hatake Kakashi and a red-haired Konoha Jonin who seemed a bit familiar. The shinobi from Konoha were standing awfully close to him. All observing shinobi were circling a small clearing. Orochimaru withheld a snort. It really was just a grassy patch. Why didn't they decide on a bigger venue? He narrowed his eyes as he spotted another Konoha shinobi standing behind Jiraiya, this one wearing a dark blue vest with light blue edges, reaching just above the knees. A black lint tied the vest around his waist. The outfit was finished with black shorts and black sandals. The Konoha Hitayate could be seen stitched to the lint around his waist. The young boy also had bandages around both his wrists and one around his right knee, over the shorts. Orochimaru recognized the outfit immediately, the boy a bit later. Why was Uzumaki Naruto wearing Senju Tobirama's Chunin outfit? Orochimaru recognized it from pictures when he was still an active shinobi en route. Shimura Danzo was quite the devoted Nademe follower. And then the boy locked eyes with him. He held the gaze firmly, but somehow had the suspicion that the boy saw through his disguise. But that was impossible. The boy looked away and focused on the matches instead. The fence-sitter was furious. Somehow, that upstart missing Nin Deidara had sneaked in their village with 100 puppets and a prodigy illusion weaver. Even he couldn't stop their assault on the village. The attacks almost stopped as soon as they had come, however. Uhuhoki didn't like it. This could only mean that they had achieved whatever they had come for. While obviously in disguise, all of them were wearing Iwa Jonin outfits. His son had taken on Deidara, as Katsuchi was quite familiar with the bomber's fighting style. A multitude of shinobi were fighting off puppets with little effect while he himself had taken on the genjutsu specialist. How could he, one of the strongest shinobi in the world, not deal with a pesky Brett wielding genjutsu? But he was good, Uhuhoki knew. The genjutsu used wasn't normal. Too fast, too instant. He fought way too many shinobi specialized in genjutsu. This kind of genjutsu came from the Sharingan. Send for Haritsuchi and Jinitsuchi. Uhuhoki's glare was palpable to the subordinates behind him. The Tsukikage was currently looking at a pile of about 20 fallen puppets just outside of the Tsukikage tower. If they were taken, those two will hopefully be enough for whoever took them. If they ran, then they would be the only ones capable of taking down Han and Rashi besides myself. Uhuhoki could admit that not even his own son, Katsuchi, would be able to. Of course, their target was those two demons. So this had to have been Akatsuki. The mercenary group had finally betrayed them. These puppets he was glaring at were surely those of that demon puppeteer, Akasuna no Sasori. The genjutsu specialist, then, was most likely Uchiha Itachi. The short, old man clenched his right fist. I guess the time of laying low is over. Memories, experiences and a multitude of deaths flashed in an instant within himself. He was used to the Shizuntoda's uncanny ability to chain down a memory so quickly and vividly as his own. He was a Konoha shinobi with a dozen grudges and Kyomonin were the most hated in the flashes somehow. He was an Iwa shinobi with 100 grudges, with Konoha mostly responsible. He was a Suna shinobi with a dozen grudges, with Konoha again, at the front. As the Kiri shinobi in him, the grudges were split about evenly for all countries. The Kyomonin in him held many a grudge for Konoha. He was about as perfectly loyal to all countries as a shinobi could get. But then, he was also the shinobi most willing to destroy all of them. He was still originally Uzumaki Naruto. And Konoha would always come first. The many perspectives inside of him gave him the clarity that Konoha was a much-hated target of the many. Weaving through many hand seals so fast, a bystander could see sweat flying from his fingers. Ninpu Yugu Shaozen. Fire and water, two opposing elements fighting for supremacy between Naruto's left hand and right hand. It's funny. Naruto murmured as he struggled to clasp his hands together. He had been weaving one-handed seals. They're fighting one another like magnets, too afraid to touch each other, but so willing to kill each other. Almost like bickering siblings. Jiraiya didn't know what to say as he watched the apparent prodigy at work with element manipulation. Letting the chakra and the elements wisp away into nothing, Naruto turned to his temporary mentor. Jiraiya-sensei. To create the acid element Gorin Geto wants me to master, I will need full mastery of all the elements, next to being able to fuse them into several new elements. The blonde seemed to pout. I've passed his assessments, but am not allowed to summon him if I can't master this. Logically, if you don't master them, you won't be able to withstand being near to any of his more powerful TokehGecko. Jiraiya shrugged. Ibuse-sama wanted the same, right? The Uzumaki nodded his head. While it was a lot easier to approach Ibuse-sama, the king of the salamanders wants me to master senjutsu as well. He told me my approach to it is mediocre, severely lacking and above all, incomplete. I have a lot to work on. Perhaps telling Hokage-sama I will be away for a while after finishing up in Yugakure would be advisable. Leave it to me. The toad hermit looked at the sky as Naruto again tried his hand, or hands, at elemental manipulation. The Chunin exam results should be in soon. I guess I should be happy, but I really expected Orochimaru to somehow show up here. In Kumigakure? I've heard tales of a possible alliance between my old teammate and this village. Jiraiya, purposely, let out loudly. It would only be obvious the Raikage had their movements monitored. Naruto also figured, but he really didn't care anymore about keeping secrets. It was time to take the gloves off. Or in his case, gauntlets. I am sure he serves a purpose still, somehow. Naruto again stopped gathering chakra. Orochimaru, from what I know of the many memories I have of him, is useful in many areas. He could be helpful if disaster strikes the shinobi world. His experiments, while vile, don't come without merit. I suppose. As long as the evil is not pointed towards us, we could let it. That's what you're saying. The younger of the two shrugged. I believe myself capable of taking him down now, should it come to that. Fuuin jutsu is difficult to use on the battlefield, but ultimately decisive when it is. Orochimaru is no less vulnerable to its rules than any other. We set the field, we take it. Jiraiya sighed. I guess it's time to stop holding back, huh? The pervert didn't expect the day would come where he would actually have to pull out all the stops and fight with his Fuuin jutsu. Are you going to warn them? You mean the other Jinchuriki? Naruto simply glanced at his teacher. I suppose I'll do that when I come across any of them. Actively searching for them isn't on my agenda, though. Chunin. He was 14 now, he should have been Anbu captain for at least a year now. The Uchiha scowled as he eyed the other participants around him. None of them were truly promising. He was strong enough now to fight on equal ground with Hyuga Niji, who was about a year older than him. The candidates from the other villagers weren't bad, they just weren't up to par. They had nothing on where he needed to be. Looking down at many corpses. But admittedly, he had colored himself a bit confused. With the truth thrown his way from Naruto, how was he to approach his older brother now? He definitely wasn't a big fan of Konoha at the moment, but he hardly felt like running away from the village that struck his clan down before they could strike Konoha down. Given close to 2 months to think about it, Sasuke came to the conclusion that it could have gone only two ways. Konoha simply played the checkmate move first. His clan hadn't moved soon enough and they paid the price for it. That didn't mean he would forgive those who were in charge of making Itachi kill his own clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo, Hamura Mitokado, Koharu Yuditane. Thinking about it some more, he would have to find out if any of the clan heads were involved as well. Would he have to kill almost all of his classmates' parents? Sasuke's gaze darkened a bit as Akumigakure Jonin started listing off the names of those who passed. He didn't care. If not here, he would receive a field promotion for this. After that, he would go directly into Soran, the guard squad responsible for protecting Konoha's newest estate. Hyuga Niji and Aburame Shino were also slated to join. While there will always be a need to hide themselves from existing, they now actually had proper housing. Each and every root member had been allocated to houses and apartments spread across the Uzumaki estate. Slowly, but surely, the estate was growing and stores were opening. Convenience stores and restaurants and many of the like. Danzo had forced the disappointments of his root program to man these stores. He didn't remove their cursed seals from their tongues though. So? How does it feel? Empty. Came a quick answer. But that beats feeling lost, I suppose. It's convenient. You won't have to be educated since you are originally from Konoha. When he returns, you will be reborn even further. And don't worry, everything you do now doesn't have to be a waste of time. No need for any concern, you've been quite thorough. I have to be. You were Akatsuki's leader, after all. Now, you are a possible future candidate for the Uzumaki clan. With your reincarnation, Naruto will have a better understanding of blood. Pure blood. Shizentuda. Not even Madara knew of this ability. A red-haired Danzo was guiding a blindfolded and mostly bandaged up Uchiha Obito around the Uzumaki estate. With Uchiha Obito so firmly under control and interrogated, Danzo, and in turn Konoha, pretty much knew everything about Akatsuki. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see you, a carbon copy of Shimura Danzo's chakra imprint, walk through the door and interrupt the interrogation Danzo was having with me. Uzumaki Danzo, 35 years old, managed a short grin on his face. The Mokuton implanted in you has granted a very superior chakra sensing ability. It makes me believe Madara has played around with a Senju and an Uzumaki offspring. Possibly even Uzumaki Karen's parents, or grandparents. Uzumaki Karen's mind's eye of the Kagura, my skill has nothing on hers, though. But our abilities are indeed quite alike. Obito admitted. How did that Uzumaki end up in Kusa of all places? A question I feel we have no need of an answer for. Danzo changed subjects. Your Sharingan was given to Kakashi. Temporarily, mind you. Originally, they were to go to Uchiha Sasuke. The plans are a bit unsure, but after Naruto uses the Shizentuda on you, he might even give it back to you. Danzo stopped walking and chuckled shortly. I believe Kakashi wants to give the first one back to you too. Obit was hard-pressed to believe this. He was still a criminal to Konoha. With both eyes, I will gain unprecedented control over the Kamui. You don't know if you can trust me. With both my own Sharingan, don't write me getting rid of your cursed seal and Madara's cursed seal far-fetched. The Shimura turned Uzumaki shrugged and waved him off, though Obito couldn't see. I see no risks. Once the Shizentuda is in effect, you will understand. All the cursed seals in the world won't make a difference. With the many Sharingan Danzo still had in his possession, he couldn't wait for Naruto to return to Konoha and take Obito as a soldier. Once that happens, they could actually create an Uzumaki Sharingan army, close to pure-blooded. Diluted, obviously, but so very close. And Uchiha Obito will even have his second chance. Asking Naruto to use the Rin-e Tensei on the Edo Tensei of Noara Rin won't be too much of a request for the undying loyalty of the undeniably powerful Uchiha Obito. With him, the Uzumaki clan will have two Mokuton-wielding shinobi. If Yamato, Tenzo or Kino, whatever the man wanted to call himself, wanted to join the Uzumaki clan, then there would be 3, even. The resurrection of the Senju, Uzumaki and Uchiha, doesn't seem like an impossibility any longer. Perhaps the Black Apple ability started life from the start? The thought of each and every intelligent being created like that and being secretly controlled didn't even cross his mind. Danzo smiled at the sky. Genuinely. Konoha would flourish once more. That boy. Something is seriously wrong with him. Youch. Yeah. You the Big 8 so aware, this human has you scared? I knew it. Kyuubi swiveled around to come face to face with Yujito. Oh damn. This cat's so sneaky, didn't even notice you peeking. Nico's telling me to be wary. That boy that came with Konoha's big shot, Jiraiya-sama. He's sending off dangerous vibes, somehow. Confusing, more. I can't tell if he's a danger yet. But then, Matatabi probably sees anything confusing as threatening. Oh yeah. Don't let the illusions be conclusions. Kid's one for real, which one I can't feel. The blonde-haired Yujito sighed, clearly exasperated. Look, Konoha's had one bijou attack over the last 20 years. It only makes sense the boy carries the nine-tail. Oof, Kyuubi's not the nicest of us. Although, we all really aren't. Inside Kyuubi and inside Yujito, the 2 bijou were confused, though. They would surely be able to sense Kurama from this close. But they didn't feel anything at all. They felt more. And more is dangerous. I think, it's not smart to get close to that one. Kyuubi actually fell silent at that. Yujito and Killer Bee shared the bijou plane in their heads if they so desired. Yujito shot her bijou a questioning glance and to her surprise, Matatabi agreed with Gyuki. It feels very familiar too. Gyuki started to say. Yes. Matatabi continued. Father's brother. Akatsuki has fallen apart. The blue-haired woman listening to the man couldn't help but snarl. Her precious friend was being used as a skin puppet by this abomination of an existence. What are you? The question went ignored. We have no Jinchuriki. The organization has been active for years, but we have not a single one. Such incompetence. Both Zetsu and Yakusu were actually in quite a bind. Sure, they held control over Uzumaki Nagato and should they release him, the red-haired man would not be too hard to regain, but there were few vessels left worthy enough to control. Your friend is quite a disappointment, Conan. If I leave him, he will be without a Rinnegan and without mobility. The only thing he has going for him is longevity. But who wants to live forever with a multitude of limitations? The last sentence seemed directed at himself more than Nagato. What are you saying? Her cold voice made him chuckle. He understood her anger. He almost sympathized, even. What will you do? If I leave this worthless human? Zetsu was thinking ahead. He needed to come out on top, and with the way things were going that would be difficult. While barely powerful, Nagato would surely have the means to recuperate into a stronger shinobi before long. Given the right tools. If I leave him, I would inevitably have to kill him. He is an undeniable threat to me, as I feel the grudge he has for me grow only more and more. She couldn't help but glare. You've lied to us for years. He believed in you, and in Uchiha Obito. I believed in you. You've deceived us and destroyed our hope. And yet, here you still are. What will stop you from fighting me? She winced as Nagato fully faced her. Nagato's face and body, controlled by Zetsu and Yakusu. Your pitiful imitation of the Mokutan aside, you couldn't even force any killing intent against this body. You're still following me in the hopes I will let my guard down and you can save Nagato. Conan looked away. Fret not. I worry little about you or Nagato. The red-haired man turned away from Nagato and looked over Amigakure once again. I worry about the humans who carry too much power on their hands. power, but more importantly, knowledge. The female member of the Akatsuki could definitely admit being kept out of the loop of most things. All she really wanted was for Nagato to be free again. But with not only one, but two of these creatures possessing him, what could be done? Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. Zetsu suddenly announced. These three are the only ones. Any of them would suffice in me regaining a stronger control over the Rinnegan and the Mokuton. I will have to take over one of them. Perhaps after, Nagato might still be alive. With a motion of his right hand, he made the rain stop falling down on Amigakure. It was time for something new. Orochimaru will not side with us, it could have been very convenient. You'd let a traitor join once again? Don't you realize that betrayal is what makes humanity survive? It's all I take advantage of when it comes to you. Zetsu revealed. But yes, I would take all I can get. Uzumaki Naruto has my older brother's ability, the Black Apple. An opponent not to be taken lightly. Uchiha Itachi has knowledge through impeccable insight and an insane amount of paranoia. He is an opponent no one can be prepared for. And I would suspect Uchiha Sasuke is being well protected by Hatake Kakashi. You have a Rinnegan and Uzumaki body. And Mokuton. Konan let out with hate in her voice. I'd hardly call you ill-prepared. I will still need help if I am to take one of their bodies. Uchiha Itachi seems in open rebellion against me and has Akasuna no Sasori and Deidara by his side. If the Shiro Zetsu aren't lying, then their rebellion will gain even more allies. He paused. Hoshigaki Kisame and Haiden are in the death trap. The Shiro Zetsu are not welcome there, so I wouldn't know what they are up to. The death trap. Yugakure, the village of hot springs. It is actually known as the land of immortal pacifism. It's a troublesome patch of land. Just like Haiden, the inhabitants are immortal. But unlike Haiden, they despise violence. But don't be fooled, the Yugakure Nin, while pacifists, are not weak. They will kill to keep peace. And since they are immortal, it is hard to engage. What is this place? They were walking through shallow red waters, while being surrounded by towering mountains. The Valley of Hell. Kakashi answered Sasuke. We will walk through the Valley of Hell to reach Yugakure. Don't get excited. These people are quite dangerous. Jiraiya lead the way. While they don't house shinobi like Akatsuki houses shinobi, they are all still immortal. What? Even Hyuga Niji was skeptical. After leaving Kumigakure, the Konoha had left straight away for Yugakure. Naruto wanted to meet up with one of his new subordinates, Haiden. Jiraiya wanted information on the Kaguya and if possible, the Black Apple. Currently, the squad consisted of a double Sharingan-wielding Hatake Kakashi, Uzumaki Hyo, able to wield abilities of the Nara clan, Hyuga Niji, Uchiha Sasuke, Aburame Shino, Uzumaki Naruto and Jiraiya of the Sannin. I can sense Kisame. Naruto let out calmly. That guy is hard to miss with all that chakra. We're getting close. Wheezing, he couldn't help but shoot a look of despair at where he last saw his brother. But there was just no time to protect others. His opponent was crazy. Hachibi. Kurabi was unable to mold chakra. What were these chains holding him down? Who was this red-haired woman who was easily subduing him? What's going on? The Uzumaki chakra chains. And these are more powerful than I've ever felt. They're not draining, but stopping activity. Almost freezing in time. Oh! You guys seem to have a decent relationship. The red-haired woman smiled genuinely. I am really sorry for doing this, Databane. Who are you? Kurabi felt like he was under a chakra bind. The entirety of Kumigakure was under attack. The Cloud had two Jinchuriki who had a perfect bond with their bijou, so attacking Kumo would be crazy. It would be nice, however, if the Jinchuriki weren't both bound to the ground by this crazy lady. I'm not much of a fighter, but I always was known as the worst opponent for Jinchuriki and Bijou. She bowed shortly, not even slightly winded from chaining down 2 fully transformed Jinchuriki. I'm Uzumaki Kushina. Nice to meet you, Databane. A bit further away from the 2 struggling Kyumo Jinchuriki, the Raikage was not having a great time either. Orochimaru was keeping all Kyumo shinobi busy with formidable Edo Tensei Nin, but he summoned one specifically to deal with a. You seem to be a bit slow. The man uttered coldly at the panting Raikage, who was sporting some nice kunai wounds. Although, I suppose you're not as slow as most. The Raikage couldn't believe it. He was outclassed in speed. Nidaime Hokage, Senju Tobarama. Why are you alive? You look a bit like the Sandaime Raikage. Judging from your attire, you must be the new Raikage. I haven't seen you use black lightning yet, though that must be because you can't. Tobarama was a renowned sensornin and ultimately calculative. If the Raikage would go into hyperspeed, shunshin, or even a dash, he would know it. I apologize, Raikage, but I am being controlled by Orochimaru at the moment. I must also inform you that you cannot defeat me. We'll see about that. Raikage pumped out chakra and surrounded himself with lightning. Tobarama simply sighed as he easily dodged the sudden attacks from it. Your moves seem halved, as if there should be a partner mirroring your moves and cornering me. Again, if you had this partner with you cornering me, you'd still be a bit too slow. A punch in the face sent the Raikage reeling back. It surprised A, who was surrounded by lightning armor. It's impressive, your defense. But it's only a part of the thunder god TokehGecko. Quite like the Raikage was being surrounded by lightning, Tobarama was surrounded by water. Compare. He seemed to be scolding and tutoring A, I have a complete water god TokehGecko. What is the difference between our defenses? Using his highest speed, A cared little for the speech and slammed his fist through Tobarama's face. Except, he was the one slammed down to the ground. Again. Tobarama instructed. Orochimaru wasn't too amused with attacking Kumigakure, with his target Uchiha Sasuke already having left the village days prior. You're the one in charge. The snake shinobi, still disguised as a Suna Jonin, turned to come face to face with Darui and C. Both promising Jonin, to be sure. Sunagakure attacking Kyumo even before the alliance is signed? You'll pay for this. C couldn't believe the chakra levels of some people around him. That one holding down B and Yujito was unbelievable. I don't care about your village or the alliance. He ripped his own face off to reveal himself finally. Darui and C took a step back and realized this opponent was probably out of their league. Orochimaru. I don't plan on making my hands dirty. A sound from behind them alerted C and Darui to a shinobi behind them. Hatake Tsukumo, also known as the White Fang, eyed both of his opponents with a crazed grin. Orochimaru had summoned him in his activated state. The Hatake clan was the Wolf clan. Hatake Kakashi was a summoner of dogs, but with enough usage and experience, Orochimaru was sure Kakashi would follow in his father's footsteps and elevate to wolf status, where he would be able to use wolf senjutsu, like Tsukumo was doing now. Using wolf senjutsu brings the great risk of losing yourself to bloodlust. Quite like a Jinchuriki would, Orochimaru mused. Thinking about it, Hatake Tsukumo probably took his own life because he took his squad's. Not that it really mattered now, as the snake watched Darui and C run for their lives. It didn't help matters that Darui's mastery of lightning had nothing on Tsukumo's mastery of lightning. Good times. Orochimaru grinned as he watched the destruction all around him. It took some digging in his own memories, but he finally remembered the member that was with Kakashi and the Konoha Genin. The name Hyo should have tipped him off, but Orochimaru hardly remembered names of people not too remarkable. But that was definitely Nara Hyo. With red hair. Not much for a disguise, so what was behind it? It confused the Konoha nuke Nin. He's withering him down as we speak, Orochimaru-sama. Another appearance, behind him. Ah! A crystal clone. Gyurin. Orochimaru greeted pleasantly. You should be able to make your move. Haggard, they kept running. Even though it was almost certain that they weren't being followed anymore, they kept at it. Running away from that hell. That massacre. Panting while running, heaving while being as thirsty as can be. They were panicking, stressed and out of options. They didn't even know what to say to each other. Were there others? Weren't there? What happened to them? She kept her eyes on the person in front of her, leading them away from their village. He was important for the enemy, important enough to chase after and kill. She wasn't as much. But she would still be safer alongside him. The both of them weren't censorine, so they couldn't be too sure if they were still being pursued. How could this have happened? Any explosion they could deal with, but this was only a few people. A few people made them flee and abandon their comrades. They kept running. There was no time. She didn't know where Darui was leading her to, but she didn't really care. They had to get away from them. A few escaped. Yes. He wasn't too thrilled about it, but there was nothing to be done for it. He couldn't risk these particular Edo Tensei out for too long. His own soldiers were a lot less competent, so it was hardly surprising. Uzumaki Kushina had always been the type of person that sees through things instantly. Even in Konoha, he never did like her, but he couldn't deny the skill she had in dealing with Jinchuriki. Hatake Tsukumo was on the same level as the Konoha Sannin. Crazed, however, he was in a whole other ballgame. Senjutsu was truly powerful. It was a shame his experiment with Jugo wasn't more successful. He wasn't too welcome on the grounds of the snake summons anymore either. Senju Tobarama, the shinobi he respected most, was sure to break free from the Edo Tensei given enough opportunity. He was the one who created it, after all. Who knows, he didn't know of a way already. Orochimaru took a look at himself and couldn't help but scowl. This man has done so much to his own body. The risks of wielding Raiton throughout the entire body. He should be thanking me to be fused with me. He flinched once, though he couldn't help but grin. His willpower is immense. I will have to keep my wits about. Orochimaru chuckled very shortly. Let their trek begin. Kumegakure has become ours. Kumegakure was huge. Much bigger and much better secluded than Sunagakure. Konohagakure was smack in the middle between them, too. Perhaps it was time to ally with Ohuhoki. That old man wouldn't be so easily fooled as though. There were many survivors. All the remaining shinobi were needed for usage of the Edo Tensei. He'll use the civilians for experiments. What about this guy? The snake summoner glanced at the body at his feet with interest. He's the perfect Jinchuriki. I would have taken his body instead, but the Biju's presence overcomplicates my jutsu. Orochimaru wasn't the type to take risks. We will have this perfect Jinchuriki experiment with Jugo's different blood samples. Gyurin didn't much like Orochimaru's new look, obviously preferring his original. I will call for the others at once, Orochimaru-sama. Within the year. Orochimaru murmured to himself as Gyurin left. This body will disintegrate within the year, as I have taken a new body too soon. The leading Raikage, now taken over by Orochimaru, moved with confidence. Best to use this time and destroy the board game. I can't get any closer than this, Jashin-sama. Haiden screamed in anger. Vile blood is smeared in the barrier. I'll be sealed away into it instantly. Interesting. Kakashi, with Sharingan out, whispered as he squinted his eyes. I see nothing. No smell, no chakra, no signs of anything being here. Glancing down, Jiraiya continued. But it makes sense. This barrier seals away anything unwanted, but lets through anything harmless. He noticed a beetle on the ground, easily scuttling through the invisible barrier. My Byakugan also sees nothing. Niji was a bit confused on why they were just standing there, apparently being blocked by nothing. Jashin-sama can see it, right? It spans all around and it completely made Kisame's arm vanish. They all looked to see Kisame completely unharmed though. Samahata fixed me up. He explained. He shot them all a wary glance, though. I don't know what Konoha is up to, but I sense zero fear from you. The squad from Leaf had arrived a few minutes ago and Hayden just started chanting some weird string of sentences, before bowing to the young blonde boy of the group. The one he proclaimed to be Jashin. He knew he wouldn't be able to deal with Jiraiya. He had heard of Hatake Kakashi but wasn't overly worried about the White Fang's son. The rest of the squad should be easy to deal with, but that blonde brat. We've been briefed. You are Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Why would you be the leader of the insane cult Hayden is part of? The shark-like man wondered out loud. Be quiet, insect. Hayden lashed out. I spared your life, but disrespect Jashin-sama again and I will sacrifice you to the highest of them. Kisame simply ignored his Akatsuki partner, former or whatnot. Highest of what? Naruto was a bit confused and so was Kurama inside of him. Hoshigaki Kisame. We have captured the leader of Akatsuki and removed his Sharingan. Kakashi responded to the sudden statements and question. We know of Otsutsuki Zetsu and Yakusu as well. Who? Kisame blinked. I know Zetsu, but why would the plant be part of the legendary Otsutsuki? He's not lying. Niji supplied. So you don't know everything either. Naruto cut in. We're not here to fight, but should we? Know that you won't die in vain. Big words. Kisame chuckled. But I know when I'm outnumbered. Even Samahata doesn't want to fight you for some reason. The former Miss Nin said, eyeing Naruto. Says you'll make him part of you. And I will. The blonde nodded. The barrier doesn't affect those who mean no harm to their home, I assume it goes underground and skyward as well. My bugs may be of assistance here. Shino suddenly spoke up. No one can see the barrier, but my bugs know where they can enter with the least resistance. Actually, and here Naruto grinned. I can see the barrier. Jashin-sama sees everything, you unknowing fools. Hayden yelled, laughing at the same time. His eyes can see all, disease, health, death and the dark. Hayden. Kisame. Should you return to Amigakure, what would await you? Pain and Konin, I guess. Kisame easily released information. I don't know what Sasori, Itachi and Deidara are up to, but they're usually nowhere near Rain. I don't know what happened to Kakuzu, but he's not the type to give in easily, so. I killed him and the Jiangu is no more. Naruto admitted. Yeah, I figured. Kisame snorted. To think a kid like this could kill Kakuzu. But don't count the Jiangu out. Kakuzu had backup plans, that's the type of guy he is. Was. So, are you going to kill me or let me go? Jashin-sama, maybe you should make him one of Dash. It's impossible. Naruto interrupted Hayden and considered Kisame with a neutral gaze. Momochi Zabuza, Yuki Haki, Kaguya Kimimaro and Karatachi Yagura. They are part of an organization in Konoha working for the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki are long gone, kid. You're obviously not a pure-blooded one. True. But we are in the process of reviving the Uzumaki clan. We are hiring and it pays well. I don't know if you know this, but you say you've captured the leader of the Akatsuki. I find it hard to believe Uchiha Madara would so easily be taken by the likes of you. Kisame was hard-pressed to believe the legendary Uchiha could be defeated, let alone captured. You've taken the imposter, Uchiha Obito. The only Uchiha in the group had been quiet so far, standing in the back of it all. Uchiha Sasuke finally turned intrigued. Madara, our legendary ancestor. No. We have not taken Uchiha Madara. Jiraiya admitted. But he was using Madara's name. He was. Kisame admitted in return. But the real Madara is coming. You guys know squat about the Akatsuki. Naruto tilted his head in amusement. Very well. Momochi Zabuza and Karatachi Yagura seemed to melt out of Naruto. Turning his head to Samehada, Kisame just got the confirmation that these two were the real deal. Kisame wasn't the only one in shock. Shino, Niji and Sasuke also seemed surprised. How the foo? It doesn't matter. Everyone watched the blonde Chunin sigh as he cut Kisame off. You seem to be a very reliable member of the Akatsuki, truly loyal to the true leader of Akatsuki. But even you don't know they're all dancing to Zetsu's tunes. This includes Madara. Kisame. Don't bother. No, our patience is running out. We want you to work for us and see if we can get close to Zetsu. None of us know if he or Pain know Edo Tensei, but if they don't then they have no way of reviving Madara. What the fuck? Kisame uttered. Get a grip, fool. Yagura ruthlessly responded. As always, you probably just followed Akatsuki because they pointed out worthy kills for you. Such a useless existence. I see you have not changed, Mizukage. The Akatsuki member snarled. Obito controlled you all the same. I was there, you know. I know. Relying on Konoha scum to get to me. The same Konoha scum you are now working for. Kisame was getting used to the crazy situation. Che, I suppose it's what we deserve. I'll tell you now, though. Siding with us and betraying us will not be possible. Yagura nodded towards Naruto. He'll see right through you. Akatsuki is still active. Kisame held his hand up to show a ring. Haiden knows it too, Chakra's still running through these things. Nagato's personal chakra. I don't know what that guy's doing, but these rings are always connected to him. He should be knowing everything, but he hasn't made a move. Naruto finished. He's either confused, scared or dead. Would Zetsu kill Nagato? Kakashi stepped forward. We talking about the same vegetable? That little weed doesn't stand a chance against Pain. Even I was taken out in seconds against him. He has some decisive skills. So do I. Amused, Naruto continued. One truth here is that I won't be able to trust you. Kisame's eyes widened as Samehada was suddenly spouting warnings. But Naruto's hand was on top of his head before he could react. Niji and Sasuke had been told about Naruto's uncanny ability, but seeing it happen before their very eyes was still shocking. It was clear in their body language. Shino, as usual, hid it well. Although he was mostly covered up anyway. Yagura and Zabuza remained where they were as Kisame vanished completely. Finished, Naruto put a hand on the invisible barrier. It's them. He let out in slight awe. Advanced to be able to connect themselves so deeply into a Fuinjutsu. It seems impenetrable. The blonde's eyes narrowed in satisfaction. But it is a weakness. Though they couldn't see it, they surely felt the change around them. They've released it completely. The others heard Naruto explain. It's supposed to seal everything. But so is my Shizentuda. A superior existence to this barrier. Running non-stop for 2 days, they had finally felt the safety to slow down and take a breather. There should be more. He was panting and drinking water from a river. I think Shirf managed to get away from that wolf monster as well. I saw Yujito escape from those chain bindings, too. What were those? The blonde Samui questioned her companion. The chakra chains. I know that only members of the Uzumaki clan can wield them. Darui answered. We should head for Konoha. Why? It was Orochimaru that attacked us. Of all villages, Konoha would know best how to deal with that man. Kumigakure is not on the best terms with Konohagakure. Taking a gulp from a water bottle she always kept on her person, Samui continued. But we have no choice. She got a nod from her companion. According to our resources, Orochimaru is supposed to be the daimyo of Wind Country, leader of Sunagakure and Otogakure. As soon as the barrier gave away, Niji was at loss for words. With his Byakugan, he had seen nothing for miles in the distance. It was almost as if the barrier was a genjutsu. But now, he saw about 100 people, all just standing there alongside worn buildings. They all had the same features. Pale, gray hair and somewhat crazed eyes. Although not as crazed as Hayden's, he realized. They were crazed and deadened. How many years have passed? Hayden seemed subdued as he was the one stepping past Naruto and answering. Many, but I don't know the exact number. Your strength. The leader of the Konoha group was confused. What happened? Jashin cultists, about 100 of them. They were supposed to be immortal and vibrant with energy, like Hayden. But these. They seemed to be malnourished and out of juice. You stopped sacrificing. Your pacifist ways are too self-destructive. Hayden screamed in anger. You may have been able to chase me away in the past, but it seems you've lost all your power. They look pale, ill and depressed. Kakashi observed as Hayden was shouting out insults. They may look weak, but they are still outnumbering us and they are immortal. The barrier imprisoned us and our safety. One who looked like the leader let out, ignoring Hayden and eyeing the group. It kept us safe from the world and it in turn from us. We may be immortal, but we are dwindling away. We used to be hundreds. Niji was intrigued and kept close to the front of their group. Sasuke stayed more in the back and was busier with his own thoughts. Jiraiya and Kakashi stood in front of them, with Jiraiya looking a bit angry. Where are Yamakusa and Yoda-Maityu? The gray-haired clan leader looked at Jiraiya in surprise, but then his eyes narrowed in slight sadness. We are blood sensors, although the ability does not originate from our clan. Your parents have become Akigura. Empty shells. A long time ago. What? Refusal for survival, refusal for sacrifice and offers. Please allow me to tell you our story. Our clan is immortal, but we are dying. Naruto nodded his head to the rest. Jiraiya still seemed angered but was willing to listen. We are the Junnu clan. We were chosen a long time ago because of the adaptability of our clan. My name is Junnu Kekkei, I am the eldest within the clan, one who has worked for Otsutsuki Hamura. To our clan, he is more known as Kaken Jashin. A cough interrupted his speech. Our clan was infected by a disease created by him and all he wanted was an army of the immortals. He wanted us to raise the lands and kill all his enemies. We would stay healthy as long as we killed and took the blood of his adversaries. Conflicted, Naruto didn't know what to think. Certain motivations lead to different executions, Naruto. While the appliance is the same, the intention and therefore the results differ. Kurama offered, although the bijou didn't sound too sure either. Refusing to kill and offer sacrifices was out of the question. It would lead to an immortal life of suffering. We had no choice but to kill. Kekkei paused as if reflecting, almost regretting, his choices. Of course, we also wanted a normal life. Be parents, have children. But a child born from two immortals seemed not destined to be immortal. Jiraiya-kun, you were the last child to be born from our clan. You were not an outcast or banished. We simply didn't want to see you die. Like all the others before you. He let the words hit Jiraiya and turned to the rest. We were broken. Our spirits took a blow, knowing we could only temporarily expand our forces. Shinobi had learned Fuuin jutsu, our weakness. Throughout time, we realized we were not as immortal as we believed. Hamura-sama had been defeated by his brother for many years, but he had left an essence of existence in all of us. But it was merely a sixth sense, not a real presence. The sense of destruction, one which could be fought with enough willpower. We had enough of the bloodshed. Had seen enough of our children die in battle or of old age before us. We wanted it to stop. Haiden-kun was not the only one who rejected our new way of life. We tried to imprison those who wanted to continue Jashin-sama's way of bloodshed, but we saw them turn ill and empty-minded. Like we ourselves are slowly turning now. We realized we would all become a Kigura with time. So we sacrificed each other to remain healthy. Haiden knew the story. He had been chased away from the community and tried to join Yugakurei's shinobi forces. But even there, he was unaccepted. He was too volatile and he didn't agree with how Yugakurei was running things. A murder or offer here and there turned him into a criminal. Yugakurei hired Akatsuki to deal with the immortal and from there Akatsuki recruited him. We know little of the outside world because of the barrier that also kept us in. All I hope and wish for is for the remnants of the clan that didn't come across Jashin-sama to have made a life. But there was no clan out there known as the Junnu clan. You two are too careless. What is that? Man or woman? He smells like a guy, but his voice seems feminine. Really? Just because he had long blonde hair and wore it in a ponytail? Wait, what was that about his voice? Han and Rashi had been sprinting away from their village in high speed, only to come to a stop in front of a tree Deidara was waiting for them in. Ungrateful, huh? Without my expertise, the two of you would still be mindless and hanging on chains. Oh. It's Deidara-chan. The young man in question glared hard. Don't act familiar with me, Jinchuriki. Stop your noise, you know your explosions mean nothing to me. Han thundered as he took a step forward, steam billowing around him and his red armor. Rashi kept back, amused but alert. The Uchiha is here, too. Judging from his skill, he'll probably be able to beat us. There's more, an obscure presence, barely there, but definitely separate. Deidara is right as well, we got the Dosakiryu squad tailing us. Simpletons. Many crows gathered as one below Deidara, to finalize a transformation into Uchiha Itachi. They are being misled and will still be for about half an hour. We should hurry. A tough battle is waiting for us. We will need you two fully recovered. You're telling us to fight for you. Or die here. Itachi remained impassive as ever, staring at the two Jinchuriki without much worry. Man. I don't know how, but Uchiha people really get on my nerves. Han growled, not willing to let his killing intent drop. Nothing to be done about it. The other Jinchuriki fell in. He's got us. Son Goku tells me he's already thrown about 20 genjutsu on both us. He just hasn't activated them yet. Itachi almost smiled. So the bijou inside of Rashi figured out how his genjutsu techniques work. He was considered a genjutsu specialist, but no one knew he readied many beforehand. He usually only needed to blink, snap his fingers or just about move a single muscle to activate one of them. He was actually usually very low on chakra during a fight, because of this way of fighting. It was also very unhealthy for the body, readying so many techniques and so much chakra beforehand. Genjutsu especially, was very corrosive to the user's mind and body. But Itachi was a man who wanted the certainty of victory. If these two were perfect Jinchuriki, then the bijou inside them could cancel a genjutsu out very easily. Thus, he prepared many. We'll go with you. But after this so-called tough battle, we're out. The tall Han thundered once again. Of course. Deidara's glare switched from Han and Rashi to Itachi. But Itachi had already dissolved into a murder of crows. The murder of crows genjutsu was a replenishing one, Deidara had come to realize. Should a fight not break out, that particular genjutsu cancelled out all others. Paranoid asshole. But Deidara knew, he probably would never be able to defeat Itachi. Irregular behavior. The complete silence and lack of murmuring was something he was not used to. From the moment he was accepted and in a way assimilated, he had to learn to separate thoughts from thoughts. Their thoughts, as they were numerous and often indecipherable. With time, he learned their language. To no avail, as the majority of their knowledge went beyond his understanding. Their information stretches to many decades ago. Knowledge goes from hive to hive and generation to generation. Wherever he went, new information would be shared. The bugs were never quiet, always sharing what they saw and felt. Their information network was never inactive and always went front to back, no matter the distance. With this in mind, it could never be quiet. As a child, Shino was gifted with the destruction hive. Destruction bugs could drain chakra and give out chakra. The more in contact they came with different chakra types, the more they could evolve. He was told they could even drain and share healing chakra. Quite a paradox. He grew up with 1,000 sounds and thoughts in his head. Hearing himself talk on top of that gave his always present headache an unnecessary boost. With time, he learned to live with the noise. But he acquired the same language his bugs, his hive, spoke. His speech therefore, was also altered. But now, at this very moment, there was not a single sound in his head. There hadn't been a sound for quite some time now. Ever since he saw Uzumaki Naruto absorb Hoshigaki Kisame. The hive queen knows all and shares all. His destruction hive, no matter where he was always in contact with all other hives. The Aburame clan members, therefore, were always connected with one another no matter where they were. He was sure information was being sent to all other hives. Did this mean all the other hives were also as dead silent as his? What did this mean? And then, one piece of information was sent to him. Judging from this particular response, he knew it came from the queen. Both his parents carried the echo hive, which was the queen hive. Before us. Shino understood. The ability that Naruto used, its origins, it predated his clan's hive system. But the silence would still remain after that, for about an hour. A group of Kyomo refugees met up about 5 miles from Konoha. Sure had been traveling with Yujito and Karui, with the same strategy as Darui in mind. They sensed one another and met up. At the moment, it was nighttime and they sat around a small fire. Darui had set up barrier around them, to keep outsiders from noticing the fire. Hikaru managed to get away and took Mabui, Gacha and Kudoi on a ship to secure Genbu and the squads currently there. The leader of the small G together released a heavy sigh. When I fled from the White Fang, the last thing I saw was Raikage-sama being detained by Orochimaru. He had been beaten. I didn't really see much after that. He clenched his fists. The White Fang, even with my black lightning, he was much more proficient with lightning release than I. I was also completely beaten. We both were. His usual partner, sure, lamented. He was a legendary shinobi for a reason. Or is. He was summoned. The Jinchuriki of the group threw in. Just like the woman keeping me and B in check. B was throwing a fuss, doing his hardest to get out. I guess that means the Red Lady had to focus more on him. That's how I managed to escape. Thing is, here, Yujito snarled. That lady winked at me and gave me a thumbs up as I ran away. With a last glance behind me, I saw how B was unconscious and she suddenly popped away into a cloud of smoke, much like a summon. She was an Uzumaki and those don't exist anymore, right? So she was summoned from the dead, at least, that's what Matatabi says. Yeah. Raikage-sama was fighting the second Hokage. The man who killed both Ginkaku and Kinkaku. I'd venture a guess and say that Orochimaru used a kenjutsu to summon the dead. Omoi didn't get out. So many people didn't get out. Karui slightly whimpered. B got captured. What are we going to do? A short silence fell on the group, before Darui decided to quickly break it. There's not much we can do. We might not be liked in Konoha, because of certain events in history, but I don't think we should go elsewhere. To think. I was actually related to him. What are the odds? They had been traveling back to Konoha for a while now, but Jiraiya was still so confused. Naruto had taken some of the healthier-looking members of the Junnu clan for himself, but released the remaining people. With release, it meant put them out of their misery. Drained the essence of Otsutsuki Hamura from them, he had explained. It made them have a death of old age. The Akigara that his parents had become. It was dreadful. They were dead. There was nothing left in them. And yet, their bodies still lived, somehow. The soul died and withered inside the body. He remembered Naruto say, "I wish I could take and revive them, Jiraiya-sama, but I'm afraid it will bring no results and only damage to me." His parents still looked pale, ill, thin and completely worn. But the eyes weren't dried out. They were empty and dead, but wet. It was saddening. And dreadful. He would never forget that scenery. Trying to shake it off and get his mind on other things, it turned to the clan name. He was an information gatherer, one of the best in the world, and he had come across the Junnu clan name before. Of course, he had found out that one of the orphans he had rescued in the past was originally from the Junnu clan. Yahiko. In a very roundabout way, they were from the same clan. It didn't make him smile, but it didn't make him cry either. Perfect adaptation was in the genes of all of the Junnu clan. Like longevity was in the Uzumaki clan. So I was born with white hair because both my parents were immortal greyheads? I am sorry it had to come to this. I didn't see another option. He watched the person in front of him shoot a short glance to the side before turning back to him. We needed Chakra. Our strategy was sound, but not certain enough for me. Their presence locks it. Itachi tilted his head to the side and glanced over Konan's shoulder. A steeled resolve, then? Konan nodded her head and turned around to face Uzumaki Nagato. Behind her stood Akasuna no Sasori, Deidara, Han, Rashi and Uchiha Itachi. Nagato. Konan glared. I'm sorry. We have to kill you. With his opponents, Yakusu and Zetsu were more than serious. Eyeing them all through his own eyes in Nagato's body, he wasn't too confident. The most dangerous one in the group was definitely Itachi. But perhaps this was a good opportunity to take his body. I guess with all of you, I won't hold back a single shred of my power. Very far away, or even as close as a hair on your head. Other dimensions locations were nowhere, elsewhere, here, there and everywhere, really. This particular one, though. It was trembling in what seemed like impatience and a sensation of something long overdue. Rage, anger. But then, ultimate calmness. Uchiha Obito's and Hatake Kakashi's dimension. No, Otsutsuki Yakusu's and Otsutsuki Zetsu's desperately pulled together prison. It was shaking out of its binds. A crack appeared in midair. And then, the entire dimension's appearance changed after it self-destroyed. You found yourself in a hopeless situation. The voice let out, with a groan as undertone. I have to admit I've never imagined being doubly imprisoned. Humans, the lot of you are incessant, desperate creatures. Be quiet. Insect. Show me the respect I deserve. Respect? I have come to learn you fooled me for years. Fooled me since I was born, even. I don't think I'll ever respect you. You've only yourself to blame. An unloved human is so easy to drag into a hole. So I can only blame myself because no one loves me. The boy uttered in the empty room. A memory of female figure flashed through his head. Your mother died as you were born. I'll admit that you were loved, even if it was for but a second. A cackle followed. But then it died. I was the one who was always there for you. Ungrateful human. My mother, she still lives in me. You humans are so naive. But I guess therein lies power, too. You'll see eventually, Gaara. Like I have seen. certain things are destroyed when you come within reach of them. Talkative? The boy from Suna, Sabaka no Gara, looked up to see the red-haired, 35-year-old Uzumaki Danzo. He is. But nonsensical, as well. I have no experience conversing with bijou. Perhaps all of them are similar in that regard. Gara tuned out the yelling in his head. You brother and sister are safe. We've even managed to reattach an arm to the puppeteer. He'll have to adjust for at least a month, however. Am I still not allowed any questions? You're not, but soon. He is on his way back. Konoha has his hands full at the moment, she'll need its pariah to straighten things out. Pariah? Uzumaki Naruto is Konoha's Jinchuriki. You and he have certain similarities in life. He didn't want you dead, because he thinks you are family. With that, the somewhat older man left the white room. Gara was once again alone with Shikaku still trying to pretend to be his mother. A few days ago, Danzo had released the Gogyu Fuuin on his seal, reopening the connection with Shikaku. It was a shock at first, especially with how pissed off Shikaku was. But the bijou, too, had realized that in Konohagakure he couldn't play the game he played in Sunagakure. He was cautious. Gara was surprised by this turn of events. While his questions always went unanswered, Danzo did provide him with information every now and then. So with family, did Danzo mean he could be blood-related to Uzumaki Naruto? Or did he mean family in a Jinchuriki way? The explosion expanded into at least a dozen more, their creator cackling with insanity. You can't escape true art. Our opponent has the ability to slip through anything and teleport pretty much anywhere. You'd think he'd realize a frontal assault seems pointless. The legendary puppeteer Sasori complained as he watched Deidara hover in front of them on a clay owl. That bird he's on packs serious power, as well. He's following and targeting a diversion. It seems Zetsu is capable of making a genuine copy of himself, the chakra presence exactly the same. Itachi supplied information while keeping a close eye on his surroundings. My usual way of fighting is unsuited for them, the usage of Kamui negates close to all. Your plan remains unchanged. The stoic Uchiha nodded at Konan, who split herself into countless pieces of paper after. He has the ultimate evasion skill. We need an attack with numerous, endless executions, not letting up for as long as we can control. The Uchiha sent knowing glances to his allies. Sasori couldn't chuckle in his current form. Very well, I suppose I'll use my trump cards. It hadn't surprised Sasori that Uchiha could see through him. Months ago, he came to him with the possibility that this day would come. The Sharingan Itachi was evolved immensely if he could read the contents of all his scrolls. One of his scrolls carried a close to limitless supply of fire. Another held about 100 puppets. The third and fourth, however, were his true scrolls. One could only be opened if the other was opened first. With an easy hand sign, the first scroll activated and out came 120 puppets. Amongst the many of them, stood an improved Karasu, Kurori, Sancho, Hirako, and the third Kazekage wielding the legendary Setetsu. Sasori wasn't done, however. Kinjutsu, Nijujinkaku. Sasori muttered, indicating he wasn't pleased about having to perform his forbidden tekyu-hike. Careful, everyone. There's a possibility I might turn less suicidal. From the third scroll, another Sasori puppet emerged. It was an exact replica of the original Sasori. We are both Sasori. To elaborate, we are both incomplete. I split my essence into two, should I ever be defeated. Itachi nodded, already having guessed this. Konan was all around them in the useful, but fragile all-encompassing tekyu-hike Nuru no Jutsu. The Uchiha himself was using something similar, another execution of his murder of Crow's genjutsu. While Deidara was still attacking white Zetsu diversions with Yakusu and Zetsu's chakra presences, Han and Rashi were busy being a bit confused. The child hasn't changed one bit. Han bit out regarding Deidara, steam slowly bellowing from around him. But Itachi did tell us, this opponent can be everywhere at the same time. Best not to let our guard down. The other Jinchuriki was a bit ahead of him, already chakra cloaked. Then get going already, Han. More than 100 puppets began swirling around them, countless pieces of razor-sharp paper flying among them, numerous cackling crows joining them, 2 chakra-cloaked Jinchuriki, not one but 2 Sasoris and Deidara, an explosion expert able to use miniature explosions that can also encompass the entire area. They should have things covered, figuratively and literally. We can't get away. Kamui is only working partially. You know what that? These fools don't know what they've done. Dimension hopping seemed so convenient, but it was quite a bother. Other than the massive head stabs with every single usage, it took a significant bite of chakra and identity essence. They couldn't use it carelessly. While Yakusu was busy panicking, Zetsu was thinking a bit further. I'm sorry, little brother. The dark half of all Zetsu thought. I'll be needing all of you to get out of here alive. He never hesitated. He simply stabbed himself into Yakusu and took over his entire body and life. The brighter part of the two's existence ended sadly and abruptly. With a sad thud, Uzumaki Nagato's body fell to the ground. Hovering in midair, stood Otsutsuki Zetsu, now complete again. A dual Rinnegan and Mokuton-wielding individual. You've left me no choice. Even though he was surrounded by an endless amount of jutsu waiting to be sprung on him, the Otsutsuki was calm. I am no longer your enemy. I've lost. And all the attacks came. But I won't die so easily. A Genjutsu cloak. High level, I shouldn't have expected any different from Konoha. They were being led by 2 Anbu squads to a secure place. Each individual in the 2 squadrons was no joke, he could judge by the very serious expression on Shur's face. They were being led to an area that still seemed under construction, with half-finished buildings and a lot of what he could see Genin doing minor missions. They themselves went by unnoticed, courtesy of the Genjutsu cloak. They can't hear us either. Darui's eye moved to the female Anbu operative who talked, wondering if she was an advanced Yamanaka that could read minds. But the red ponytail would indicate otherwise. You'll be under heavy surveillance during your stay here. If what you said is true, things will turn rather drastic soon. For both of us. The commanding officer spoke. With both meaning Konoha and Kyumo. Forgive us the hasty lead, you'll have to wait here for quite a while. Most are in a meeting. Understandably, with the news of Kyumigakure being overtaken by Orochimaru. Darui and the rest of the Kyumo refugees were being led into a fresh building that seemed like it was finished just a few days ago. Once inside, though, it was very pleasant. It was a cafeteria. But Darui could see and read the body languages. Every single person working in this cafeteria was a shinobi. And not shoddy ones, either. The Kyumonin didn't know that they were all root rejects. Make yourselves comfortable. We will all be here for a while. All drinks and food are free at the moment. Thank you. Darui and the rest of the Kumnin bowed. The Anbu squads separated into 2, getting comfortable in corners of the cafeteria. The occasional customer came and went, but the group of Kyumonin remained silent. They didn't eat or drink, their thoughts only on Kyumigakure. After about an hour, an individual approached them. Around 30, extremely healthy and excellently poised. Darui immediately observed. He knew somehow, this man was a leading figure. My condolences. Nothing I say will be of any true comfort. The red-haired man started. Uzumaki Danzo had 2 gray eyes, he didn't have a Sharingan. It is unfortunate, but you will have to be detained until further notice. Too many uncertainties make room for doubts. Surely, you understand. With a quick motion of his right hand, Darui silenced any of his squad that might speak up at that. Of course. Please, lead the way. We will follow every order, every rule. Good. You understand how things can work quick later rather than sooner. The higher-ups, he himself included, were still unsure of how to deal with this situation. The Hokage was busy with a lot of reports from neighboring villages on whether they were safe or not. Orochimaru sure knew how to make his moves. Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki. With things as they were, he considered nothing far-fetched no longer. He had been sleeping on the job for too long. No. He, as in all of them, were forced into slumber on this. Just how much was there that they didn't know? He needed to deploy research squads immediately. Information on this is everything. You called for me. Nara Shikaku gave the man he had summoned a stern, serious gaze. It gave the man pause and a small amount of disbelief. And the silence remained further. War? He whispered, slightly anxious. As anxious as Hyuga Hayashi could be. Nara Shikaku was, as he himself witnessed many times, oftentimes lax. To see him serious here was foreboding. A snort came from the Jonin commander. Perhaps. The Hyuga watched as the Nara fished a cigarette from one of his pockets. I need the tracker team elites to form a squad with our intelligence team elites. 4. Sensing the severity of the situation, Hayashi threw away the questions in his head. I have a select few focused solely on reconnaissance, distance and extreme detailed analyzation. You do well to include the Aburame and Inuzuka for this. Obviously. I want you in charge of this operation, Hayashi-san. I will share with you why. Because the Hyuga had a much bigger stake in this than anyone probably knew. And so Shikaku explained everything he knew. Ha! It came out as a harsh whisper as smoke billowed around the figure. As much fun as I've had in the recent decades, this restricted freedom still defeats it. Sharp, dangerous eyes considered the individuals before it, or her. Don't underestimate arrogance, boy. Knowledge is a power often misused. The light blue-haired girl stretched her muscles. Your ability isn't too bad, you can even form clothing from chakra. I've been able to expand on its absorption skills. Living things, even their remnants, are powerful. Much, if not all, was once alive. Wisdom. Borrowed or not, it still counts. As is what is expected of the black apple. Samahata. You've given me far more on history lessons than any other I've taken in. The blue-haired female nodded once at Naruto, not bothering glancing at any others behind the blonde. You're too weak. Once here, I will turn on you as well. Naruto grimly smiled. We'll see about that. With a single thought, Samahata faded away into chakra wisps, back into Naruto. Starting with a sigh, the leader of the current squad turned to the others. Right now, he was with Hatake Kakashi, Jiraiya, Hyuga Neji, Uchiha Sasuke and Aburame Shino. The former Akatsuki member Haiden, who had taken the name Bun Mayaku from the Tekuhike that was used to revive him after being banished from the Junnu clan, also worked for him now. Kekkei Genkai. Mutations and dilutions. Weaker offsprings of a force even I will crumble against. I have the ability to morph whatever faces me into my own power. It's not endless. We need to put my ability to better use. I need help with cultivating numbers and existences. What did you learn? You wish to know, Jiraiya? Naruto's voice was a bit hollow, as if the knowledge he learned sucked him dry. The Toad Sage saw agony, perhaps greed, in the boy's eyes. The downfall of my ability is wanting more. The opposite might actually make me stronger. Or Kurama's words from weeks ago came to him. He still hadn't learned how to kill a soul. I need to surpass Senjutsu. Otherwise, we will not stand a chance. I did not foresee them, or him, fleeing. There's a first time for everything. A confused Itachi. Sasori, Konan and Deidara had never seen that before in all their time in Akatsuki. Well, Konan wasn't really paying attention since she was tending to a unconscious Nagato. Han and Rashi were seated on the floor, not really caring about it. I didn't even know they were actually two people. Deidara admitted without shame. Thought that voice thingy was just a weird habit. The puppeteer sighed. He had already sealed his other half back into a scroll, alongside all his other puppets and TokehGecko. Can't be good, I assume. He knew Itachi. Knew him as the worst-case scenario thinker. If it wasn't in his head, it's probably bad. It means I was correct. Even they have something they fear. Itachi's gaze hardened, as if he was tempted to do something. He will probably go after Orochimaru. The fool who tinkers too much with the unknown. Otsutsuki Zetsu will probably take advantage of that. The addition Sasori supplied wasn't enlightening for Deidara. Maybe those two will kill each other. Zetsu has a Rinnegan, Mokuton and an extremely high amount of chakra. As we have learned, he can also fly. I don't think Orochimaru can survive that, no matter how many lives he has stocked up on through his cursed seals. He has perfected the Edo Tensei. It's a gamble, but I believe Sasori is correct. Orochimaru will still lose that battle. The Sharingan user released a relieved sigh and chose to sit down as well. It is very intriguing. Hoshigaki Kisame and Haiden, I've learned, seem to have joined the Konoha forces. I am unaware of the reasons, but perhaps we should investigate. It's Uzumaki Naruto. Konan looked over her shoulder at Itachi, Sasori and Deidara. Zetsu, she spat out with hatred. Mentioned something about him having the black apple. There was a short silence, before one of the two Jinchuriki yelled out. What? All of the former Akatsuki members turned to Rashi, the one who had shouted. Han wasn't as close to his bijou. If what Son Goku says is true, we're all going to want to join this black apple Naruto fellow. Rashi stated incredulously. He says a big player has just started moving. Itachi rose again and faced the two Jinchuriki. That will be complicated. Konoha's foundation has been in jeopardy for a long time. I have heard little of this black apple ability, but I do believe it wiser to remain unnoticed for a while. Nagato. Here Itachi chanced a glance at the downed Uzumaki is barely even a shadow of his former self now. Kirigakure, at the moment, might be a better move. The Konoha Nin all waited for the final members to go through security. It was a hassle, but they were really finding it difficult to let Haiden into Konoha, despite Jiraiya's, Kakashi's and Naruto's support. There was little surprise when Haiden suddenly screamed obscenities at someone who was trying to put him to sleep with genjutsu. Most genjutsu rely on types of fear. Haiden lacked most types of fear. Fucking weak genjutsu. That shit doesn't work on me, insect. The Jashin follower screamed at a particular roof. The roof where an Anbu squad was under camouflage genjutsu. Look, just let me get to the Hokage. Jiraiya let out, feeling like he had quite enough of the day. He actually was planning to hit the hot springs as soon as he set foot in Konoha. Otherwise this is not going to go quickly. The sage drawled out to the gate security guards. Right now, they were Hagain Kotetsu, Kamizuki Izumo and Namishi Rado. The latter was Jonin rank and nodded to Jiraiya, who quickly used Shunshin. Naruto, Taicho. Are we allowed to excuse ourselves? Hyuga Niji stepped forward, motioning to himself, Sasuke and Shino. The blonde looked a bit surprised, before turning to them. Report to the Hokage as well. You need to get your papers changed as you've all become Chunin. Kakashi, maybe you can meet with Danzo. Haiden had remained rather calm throughout the entire ordeal, all things considered. This shit's taking pretty long, Jashin-sama. Bear with it. The Uzumaki murmured as he saw the three fresh Chunin move towards the Hokage tower, while Kakashi simply used Shunshin. You'll become a shinobi once again, Haiden. It will take time. Absent-mindedly twiddling a yellow tulip in her fingers, Ino was browsing through Ika tactics. Her team was supposed to show up in about an hour in her family's flower shop. I can't believe Jiraiya-sama became famous with these obvious plots. I can't believe Yamanaka Ino needs advice from smut books. Unimpressed, Ino looked up at Sakura. I can't believe I didn't notice you come in. But I guess that forehead of yours blocks a lot of light and sound. Ugh, that one was really lame, even for you. Sakura easily backhanded the comment away. I'm supposed to join your team practice for today. You're more than an hour early. The blonde deadpanned, turning back to the book on the counter. She wasn't surprised, however. Sakura always was more than punctual. Yeah, that's better than late. It's not if you're that much earlier. The early bird catches the worm, but the earliest dies of boredom, and has serious abandonment issues. Whatever. I was bored. My entire team is outside of Konoha. Sasuke-kun should be getting back soon. I hope he got promoted to Chunin this time. The Yamanaka shrugged, putting the Ika away. Have you been to the Uzumaki estate? She changed subjects instead. Her love rival leaned against the counter. Ino was standing behind and nodded once. Constructions are still in progress, but it looks impressive. I don't know how they pulled it off, but it seemed they built more than 100 houses in a week. People don't seem to be allowed in yet, though. I figured since you were on Naruto's team you might have been. Another nod. I don't know too much about it. Convenience stores, restaurants and libraries were already manned, though. I know there's restricted access, but I don't know why. Oh? Knowing you, you've done some research. Without a team, you've got plenty of time on your hands, right? It's funny. Sakura's expression turned a bit regretful. Our class clown, dead last classmate. He's an Uzumaki. I don't understand why he's been treated so poorly. I did a bit of digging, to no avail. There's no one that knows anything about him, or is not sharing. But there's information about the Uzumaki clan, though only little. It seems they got eradicated many years back because they were too much of a threat to all nations. But they were allied with Konoha. The pink-haired girl seemed troubled. But there's no record of any support, or even retaliation from Konoha after Uzushiogakure was attacked. Ino's eyes widened. You think Konoha betrayed them? I don't know. I only know the Uzumaki were known for their prowess with Fuuin jutsu, but I can't imagine Naruto even being able to get his grammar right. He's surprised us all before. Not holding back a snort, Ino continued. I can't believe we're talking about Naruto instead of Sasuke-kun. After we graduated from the academy, Naruto really changed. I don't know if he's always been fooling us, or if something happened. It's probably a bit of both, and more. One thing us Yamanaka learn is that things aren't explained by just one thing. She tilted her head and considered Sakura curiously. Say, you wouldn't be able to get us in the Uzumaki estate after practice? Who knows? Sakura turned as Shikamaru and Choji entered the flower store. Naruto should be getting back soon, too. He's been gone for a long time. Asuma-sensei's been summoned for a meeting. Shikamaru, lazily as ever, drawled. He told us to go practice by ourselves, but I vote we skip. Then the Nara nodded to Choji. I didn't want to, but he dragged me over to tell you guys anyway. No way, I want to train. Otherwise I'm stuck all day behind this counter. Besides, the mind specialist in training motioned to Sakura. I want to kick Billboard into the sand a few times. I'm going home. I only came here to tell you practice is off as a courtesy. Shikamaru walked out of the store. Ino glared at his retreating form, grumbling a bit as well. You'd think things change. Choji stuffed another chip in his mouth before speaking. He says he's going home, which is true. But he's actually training with his dad. So if you're up for another training partner, I'm game. That's the spirit, Choji. Let's practice our family jutsu on Sakura. Sounds like fun. The one in question deadpanned. Your teammate is, Interesting. He's a nightmare. He kills and absorbs humans. Yes, I do believe that fits the description. The young Uchiha and Hyuga walked out of the administration office located next to the Hokage Tower. They were tired from the long mission, but were rewarded with Chunin outfits and homework. Homework in the form of paperwork that came with becoming Chunin. Many things to sign, many career possibilities, and new regulations on what kind of service is expected from you in the village. It wasn't unexpected to either of them. I am glad he is on our side. I wouldn't know what to do facing an enemy with his ability. Niji continued. The Hyuga glanced sideways, observing the ever-present stoic expression of the usual Uchiha. Uchiha Sasuke, would you object in becoming members of the same squad? I would also like to train with you. The Uchiha wasn't against it. Niji had defeated him, after all, so he definitely wasn't weak. Don't start crying when you can't defeat me anymore. A smirk formed in Niji's face. I'll take that as a yes. And don't worry, my skills will ascertain your defeat any day. Both their eyes had noticed the included Soran document among all other application forms in the administration office. After gazing at clouds for an hour or three, Shikamaru decided he'd built enough strategies in his head to deal with all the formations his father threw at him during a previous battles of shogi. Time to test them out. Sliding the doors open that allowed entrance to the living room of his house, the young Nara was surprised to find Naruto leaning against a wall and a red-haired man with a typical Nara haircut playing shogi against his father on the floor. Why is Naruto here? Shikamaru. His dad greeted slowly. Good timing. I'm currently in a battle that still goes both ways against Hyo-san. This might be good learning material, switch with me. What? He complained instantly. Our styles are different, I can't. Sometimes a leading officer dies. Shikaka rose from his position. It's up to an underling to be able to quickly and competently take over. Let's see your improvising skills. Grumbling and glaring at his dad, Shikamaru took over his seat on the ground. He did glance at Naruto, though, and still wondered why the blonde was here. The shogi board instantly had all his attention, however. He really liked the game, after all. He didn't even notice Naruto and Shikaku relocating to another room as soon as this Hyo person made his move. Tell me. Are they all actually really you in advanced memory control? Naruto considered the question as Shikaku lighted a cigarette. It's a bit of both, Shikaku-san. They're really not dead. But not alive either. This Rinne Tensei you used, I've read about the limitations. Even those are still you, or at least yours. It wasn't written down anywhere, but Naruto knew Shikaku figured it out by investigating reports about the massive temporary coma attacks weeks ago. But the Jinchuriki shook his head. They're not me. They carry my chakra, which makes your second assumption more correct. Nara Hyo turned Uzumaki Hyo. Can't say I'm particularly thrilled about that. Is there a way to truly revive them? Can you release them completely? I've been struggling to come up with an answer to that. Kurama told me I need to learn how to kill a soul from within myself. Considered far-fetched, Shikaku still regarded it seriously. The mindscape, there are several ways to get there. Meditation is supposedly one. The Yamanaka are another. But then there's also the Falls of Truth. Though never proven, they say the waterfall at the Valley of the End is rumored to be one of them. Another one is on Kumigakure's island turtle, Genbu. There are probably more. If you truly do need to kill something inside of you, I'd bet you need to do it in person. The Yamanaka are really more powerful than people think. Naruto murmured. Shikaku couldn't agree more. Their lineage is interesting. With lineage in mind, Shikaku changed the subject. You said you needed my help, Naruto. Just turns out I need yours too. With an amused snort, Naruto willed a particular Shinzui Bunshin out. You have my full cooperation, Shikaku-san. I've already been informed of the squad you put together. The Jonin commander didn't bat an eye at the sudden appearance of a light blue-haired young woman appearing from Naruto's chakra. Naruto was impressed. Meet Samehada. In the past, she used to be an underling of the Otsutsuki. Extremely powerful, too. But she was weakened and forced into a ceiling that made her into a weapon. Kirigakure blacksmiths claimed to have created this very weapon, but Samehada was the only weapon of the 7 swordsmen of the mist that did not originate from Kiri. This woman is a relic. She lived when the Otsutsuki thrived. Shikaku's eyes had widened in the meantime. I absorbed Hoshigaki, Kisame, and Samehada. The weapon fuses in more ways than one with its wielder, and that was what limited her strength and freedom. She regained her freedom as soon as she stopped being a weapon. Naruto huffed and took a seat on the floor. She is probably the strongest soldier I have. She listens to my commands and they are to answer any and all questions you have in total honesty. Despite the grim situation, Shikaku couldn't help but feel excited. If what Naruto says is true, he can now find out about the true history of the shinobi world. In turn, though, I want yours, the Akimichi's and Yamanaka's complete allegiance to the Uzumaki clan. I'd take more, but your reach is questionable beyond that. More often than sometimes, Shikaku wondered if the characters Naruto absorbed could overpower Naruto's own. You're cunning, Naruto. He started. You already summoned Samehada before I could make a decision. Your tone suggests no deceit, but countless absorptions might have turned you into the best con artist in the world. Who can determine whether you speak lies or truths now? Is this woman really Samehada? Is Samehada even what you claim her to be? True. You will need a Yamanaka and a Hyuga to confirm it. But even then. Shikaku shook his head. Even that will not prove it completely. You know what you're asking. Your trust. I believe I am in a position where I can ask for more, then. Naruto's eyes gleamed with admiration for the man. You are, indeed. Unsummon Samehada for now. I will need time to consider my demands. Naruto did so. Be careful with your tools, Naruto. You do know that is said the black apple destroyed itself from within. If words from the past are to be believed. The blonde was already going for the exit. I know, Shikaku-san. Believe me, I am taking precautions. With the use of his right hand back, he was back to normal again. His normal self being a punk picking on people weaker than him. Although he seemed he have mellowed out quite a bit ever since the Chunin exams. I've never seen you around. The puppeteer turned to see a red-haired girl stare, glare, at him. You a crossdresser? A twitch above his brow signified his instant annoyance. Cute girl, or not, no one insulted him and got away with it. Fuck off, no sense. I'm not in the mood to bitch slap little girls right now. Oh. Was the girl's response. Kankura turned completely horrified as his world changed completely and a horde of naked men all came charging at him. Hundreds of them. Kai, motherfucker, Kai. Kankura yelled and formed the appropriate seal desperately. Tayuya was unimpressed as she watched the makeup-wearing boy dispelling genjutsu after genjutsu. Idiot doesn't know he activates a new one every time he shouts out the name of the dispelling tekuhik. She muttered. This particular genjutsu trap was voice-activated by the victim. Whoever didn't teach him jutsu don't necessarily need to be voiced out loud should feel ashamed. Mind letting my brother go? He's actually crying. Tayuya looked past the boy and saw a blonde girl with 4 pigtails approach. This guy your sister? Temari stared, unimpressed. Fine, fine. As soon as his world changed back, Kankura noticed his own state and quickly scurried into their newly assigned house. Guess we're neighbors, huh? I can guess he asked for it, but you seem to be of similar mind to my brother. The female Sunanin let out in annoyed manner. I'm Temari, my brother's name's Kankuru. Tayuya. The girl introduced. You're the guys from Sunagakure, right? Well, welcome to the Uzumaki estate. In case you didn't know before. If you don't want to be here, you won't be here for long. What's your game, Raikage? No game. Just an inquiry and a suggestion. You're too slick. What happened to you? Konoha. That village has grown too strong. Even though I've grown an army twice their size, I know we'll more than likely still fall. A grinned unashamed, and Uhohoki was disturbed to see such a different aura around the man. The oversized man had crashed right in the middle of Uegakure and demanded an audience. The audacity was definitely a sign this was the rowdy Raikage. But the man before him now, in his office, was a stark contrast to the man he knew as a. Something was definitely odd here. Uhohoki was a very paranoid man. His personal strike team was ready to bring the man down should it be necessary, but there was no hostility. I've heard you've lost both your Jinchuriki. Surely you wouldn't brush my proposal off without thinking over it carefully? Uhohoki's eyes narrowed perceptively. The man definitely didn't have the skill Silver Tongue. And the nerve to show up by himself, without any Kyumo squads. Leave my village, Raikage. I am in no mood to be dragged into someone else's schemes. Losing a Jinchuriki or two will not change the power of my country. We still have the means to turn all to dust, don't forget. And then, Uhohoki's eyes widened as a man materialized right next to A. The elite team was ready to intervene until Uhohoki shouted out. Mew! You've grown old, Oki-kun. Every night before heading home, he would always look over the village. The view changed drastically recently, with the addition of the Uzumaki estate. Hiruzen didn't know what to think of it, yet. Big players in Konoha, big ones, made even bigger. With his permission, Naruto had recruited members of the Akatsuki and would take in a former Konoha shinobi long thought dead. He had made Kakashi into an S-rank shinobi, and Jiraiya would probably be able to defeat him now, too. Even more preposterous was Uzumaki Danzo, with impeccable control over the Mokuton. He had half of the 7 swordsmen of the mist and quite a few unique Kekkei Genkai users. But if the information given to him by Naruto about an hour ago was very troubling. If true, he understood why Naruto was amassing an army. He turned away from the view and held in a cough. He was still strong, but his strength, as was the thing with old age, was fading slowly. The offer will always stand, Hokage-sama. The words spoken to him were almost bewitching. And if he had to believe what he saw with his own eyes, Danzo was happy for it. Kakashi was stronger for it. To be in his prime again. But would he really be himself, or were they all in actuality Naruto in disguise? Then again, if death was approaching anyway, did it truly matter? The aging Hokage snorted, knowing above all to see truth around him. He knew Naruto would probably absorb him on his dying bed anyway. The legendary professor, Sarutobi Hiruzen, back in power? Was he actually excited? I'm really impressed with him. To think he would make such a big move. He gained a powerful body and a perfect Jinchuriki. That on top of his perfected use of the Edo Tensei makes him a very powerful enemy. Naruto was walking the streets of his own estate with Danzo and Tenzo, actually heading out into Konoha. I'm no longer worried about Nukenin and Shinobi nations. We have bigger monsters to deal with. Even though that's true, Orochimaru can't be underestimated. If the Otsutsuki catch wind on what's going on here, they might serve as extra fuel for our enemy. Danzo, make sure our grounds will grow stronger. Employ promising shinobi and make them stronger, fine-tune them. I will go into training on Mount Mayaboku after I find Tsunade. Hopefully, she will come along. Jiraiya will stay here and help you alongside Kakashi to make sure Konoha is better prepared for what is to come. Tenzo was a bit confused, but heard the authority in which Naruto spoke to Danzo. I no longer receive information as a revived one, but I can venture a guess the odds are not in our favor. Should things turn south, I have an escape plan in place. Be sure you are at least in the Uzumaki estate when you feel the situation hopeless. He then handed Danzo a scroll. You simply activate this scroll in between your fingers as you use the activate hand seal. It's attuned to your chakra. Understood. The blonde then turned to Anbu Captain. Yamato, or Tenzo. Call me Tenzo. I haven't spoken to Iruka for a while, but I think he's very much impressed with you. He watched the Anbu member nod in gratitude. Since you are one of Orochimaru's most prized and surviving test subjects, I can't help but be cautious. Meaning he couldn't absorb Tenzo. But you're most certainly one of the most valuable members of the shinobi force in Konoha. Seeing as you can't be part of my personal army, I hope your abilities will be passed down genetically. Excuse me. Also, and I have discussed this with Hokage-sama, I request of you that you and yours are the only Anbu squad that will have a connection with Soran. Should you agree, you will have your personal headquarters in this estate as well. And well, Danzo speaks well of you. I would like to welcome you as a member of the Uzumaki clan. I know you're no Senju, but you have their blood. Blood connected to the Uzumaki. Above that, blood purer than an Uzumaki's. Ah! I don't really know what to make of all this yet. I have a lot of questions. Yes. And on this walk we are having, I am willing to answer all of them. And then we can also discuss whether we accept the Kyuubi refugees into the estate. He turned his head to look over his other shoulder, at Danzo. You'll have Uzumaki Obito and Tidan Samahata at your service. Tidan? She is one of the 5 guardians of the Otsutsuki. The only other I can locate quickly would be Genbu in Kyuubi. Make the best of it, Samahata has knowledge about all jutsu and fighting styles. We need to prepare for a war, because I believe Otsutsuki Indra has been awoken. Is he that dangerous an enemy? Most likely. He supplied to Danzo. But more than that, his actions will loosen a lot more trouble than we might be able to handle. From observing Samahata's past, this is not outside of my abilities. It will take a big chunk from my total chakra potential, but perhaps that's only for the best. The black apple is a double-edged sword. Having too much of something backfires in unpleasant ways. They then arrived where they wanted to be. Tenzu was a bit confused as the 3 of them were staring at the grave of one Noara Rin. Let's add another Jinchuriki to our midst. Danzo's eyes rested another tombstone nearby, however. Sarutobi Noara Biwako. Akatsuki. The group remained fearless as an army stood bearing down on them. It seemed Kiri had talented sensornin to have sensed them still this far from Kirigakure itself. Uchiha Itachi had already prepared more than a dozen genjutsu in advance, including his murder of crows genjutsu, in case he needed to flee. Akasuna no Sasori had deployed one of his few long-distance puppets. The Deidara standing with them was a clay clone and the Konin a paper clone. Han and Rashi were ready to unleash Jinchuriki hell should it be required. Uzumaki Nagato was still unconscious, being shielded by the real Konin miles back. Not Akatsuki. Itachi tried, but knew if would fall on deaf ears. Nothing would sway away hostility. About 50 of them, but not all ranked jonin. Perhaps not even half, the Uchiha estimated. The former members of the Akatsuki knew. They knew Kirigakure was low on strength ever since Terumi Mei had reclaimed Kirigakure. So should a battle occur, it would most likely end in Kirigakure's defeat. The current Mizukage glared at the Uchiha in particular. I will not allow a repeat, Uchiha. You are not allowed in my village. And he understood. The previous Mizukage had been under Obito's control. It stands to reason any Uchiha in Kiri would be met with suspicion and hostility. None of them were particularly familiar with Kirigakure either. Mei was biting the corner of her bottom lip in anticipation. Uchiha Itachi, Akasuna no Sasori, the Mad Bomber Deidara and Rashi and Han, Iwa's Jinchuriki. I don't know the woman, but if she's with Akatsuki, she'll probably be a true threat as well. She knew the realistic odds here. We did not come to wage war. Sasori spoke. That's too robotic a voice. He's not even really here. Mei's eyes narrowed dangerously, glancing at Ao. The talented censorine nodded his head once, but also gave an indication he couldn't sense any other presences nearby. Akatsuki has disbanded, we seek refuge. The puppeteer continued. The auburn-haired woman wanted to laugh at that, but anger overshadowed it all. What do you want here? Haven't you done enough damage to our country? I will not allow it any further. Make no mistake, Akatsuki. We will strike you all down. Understandable. Itachi spoke up and Mei's glare turned even fiercer. We come with information. Here, the Uchiha held a scroll. Nothing more. We will turn around and leave you in peace. You might not want it, but a war is coming and we will not be the ones you'll have to fight. The forces of Kiri watched as Itachi gently put the scroll on the ground. I pray for your and our safety. Itachi then dissolved into crows flying away. Konan scattered to the wind as pieces of paper. Sasori disassembled into many pieces of wood and they all, much like Konan's paper, scattered to the winds. Deidara simply melted to the ground, leaving a mess. Han and Rashi glanced at each other in surprise, having expected a big fight. They both turned around and walked away. Mei's glare didn't falter. The scroll the Uchiha had left behind could still be a trap. What do you want to do, Mizukage-sama? Use your Byakugan to read the contents of the scroll from here. And then we'll burn it. Ao sweat dropped. A rolled-up scroll, probably secured with Fuuin jutsu created by an Uchiha. But not just any Uchiha. Uchiha Itachi. And she wanted him to read it from a distance? Her expectations of his stolen Byakugan were always too much. Ah! Mizuka! Just do it. She then turned around and motioned for the remaining forces to follow. Ao's shoulder slumped as his Oni Byakugan gaze zoned in on the scroll. This is going to be a very long night. He never would have guessed to even be able to imagine the scenery before him. His trusted summons weren't amused with him. The Toad Sage frowned at his godson, wondering how he even had the guts to pull off what he just did here. The blonde somehow had managed to release the bijou within him. Although it might just be some sort of advanced henge and Shinzui Bunshin combination. Kurama, the ninth of the tailed beasts. Isabu, the third of the tailed beasts. Goringata, the gorilla demon. Currently refraining from letting his toxic presence destroy everything around him. Enma, the monkey king. With his most trusted summoner Sarutobi Hiruzen. Fukasaku, elder of the toads. Behind him stood Gamabunta, Gamahiro, and Gamaken. Ibius, master of the salamanders. He brought along some higher-ranked poison toads, who had defected from the Toad clan. Katsuyu, one of the highest summons of the slugs, with Tsunade also being present. Aoda, a powerful serpent of the snake summons, with her summoner Mitarashi Enko. Manda was too much for her. Mean Game, a higher-leveled turtle. His summoner Mato Guy was also present. Magamichi, master of the Blood Wolves. Though Kakashi never had the honor of being able to personally summon the Elder or the Blood Wolves, his usual summons managed to reel the master in for this meeting. Goringata and Magamichi were the highest of ranks present. We have gathered here for a reason. Please refrain from destroying these beautiful lands. His words were hardly heard over the sound of their own massive killing intent. The Monkey King sighed to himself as he didn't blame them. All currently present weren't exactly nest of friends. They had all come to Mount Mayaboku. Enma wondered how long it would take before they could start this meeting and have possible talks about an alliance of the animal clans. The Otsutsuki will return, after all. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this what if and want to see next part of it, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. See you in the next video. Peace.